I can't help myself.
What's happening, my brothers? Welcome aboard. Mike's MMA Picks here with a UFC 288 recap. Looking back at not only the Aljamain Sterling Henry Cejudo championship bout, but also the 11 other fights that we saw go down inside of the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. Great venue. Great venue. It was my third time in that arena. I believe the first one was back at UFC 78 in 2007, long time ago. And so fantastic night of fights. We were able to cash some tickets last night. Also, we saw some spectacular performances. We saw Mr. Lopez, wow, giving Movsar Evloev a run for his money. And we saw some brutal knockouts. In fact, the UFC DJ was forced to put in some overtime. In fact, there was, I believe, about a 35-minute break in the action between bouts because there were just so many finishes happening. So was able to run into a few of the folks who take part in MMA Twitter throughout the evening. And I want to thank everybody for coming out for that incredible event. And let's get right to it. Let's talk a little bit about what went down at UFC 288. So first bout of the night, we saw Claudio Hibero taking on Joseph Holmes. And Joseph Holmes, we saw he missed weight, looked very sluggish out there. First round, about halfway through the round, started to wilt under the pressure of Hibero, basically survived the last 10 seconds or so. There was a lot of ground and pound taking place there. And second round didn't have much left, Joseph Holmes, that is. And a lot of fannies were in the seats last night. I believe it was a sold-out event. So this got everybody up on their feet and kind of set the tone for the rest of the evening. Tim, thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate you and everybody that's a part of MMA Twitter. I know we've been at this for some time and try to put in work on a weekly basis, event after event, month after month, year after year, and can't win them all, but we did well last night. And when you take a look back at it and pull the lens back, you see that this was a solid card. I've been to many different events, and the crowd, I got to say, the Newark crowd, they were really getting on some of the fighters. Even Aljo, the atmosphere inside of the building was very pro Cejudo, and also a lot of vitriol sent Bilal Muhammad's way. I've noticed that. And also on the way outside of the arena, a lot of disgruntled fans, basically upset with a few of the decisions that took place. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about this devastating knockout that we saw. Phil Hawes came out. He was walked out to the Rock's theme song, and the crowd was electric for a few minutes. Ikram Aliskerov turned his lights out, as we've seen Phil Hawes falter and get basically shut off. I mean, he's a solid fighter, but the chin's gone, unfortunately. And I was sitting in a section in the lower level, just a few rows off the floor. I think it was the 12th or 13th row. You could hear Phil Hawes' contingency of his fans. There was blood-curdling screams when he was brutally knocked out and didn't regain consciousness for several minutes. He was completely out cold. So you got to wonder, this may be the end of the road for Phil Hawes in his professional mixed martial arts career. I would be shocked to see him continue on after so many brutal knockouts, and this has been back to back. The Dolidze fight, I'm surprised how he was cleared to fight in this instance. That knee looked like it was decimated just a few months ago, and so Aliskerov, who was brutally knocked out by Hamzat Chimaev, turns the tables here and brutally knocks out Phil Hawes, and I believe he wanted Bo Nickel, right? Or Joe Pyfer, one of those fighters. Let's check the comment section here. Dan, good to see you. Thank you for your hard work, and appreciate you. I know you're what they refer to as an OG. I believe we are the same age. We're in our mid 40s here, and we put in a lot of work. Yeah, Phil Hawes looked good until he didn't, and Ali Skarov is looking to fight Bo Nickel. So let's make that fight. The reality is Aliskerov does possess legitimate power, and also we saw on the Contender Series, I believe he was a minus 580 betting favorite. So he's been he has some support behind him as well. So make that fight. I know that Nickel, they've been typically looking at slow building fighters here. So I wonder if it's going to continue in that regard. Now, this is another situation where I was sitting near, it appears as some family or friends were of Braxton Smith were near me, and they were gung-ho backing him out of Texas when he took on Parker Porter yesterday. And Braxton came out guns blazing. He went for it, and it didn't turn out his way. No semblance of a get-up game or an inability to defend himself on the mat. It was pretty glaring that there are gaping holes in Braxton Smith's game. So I was not shocked to see Parker Porter get the win there, a ground and pound victory. Parker Porter also seemed pretty choked up in the post-fight interview. I believe it was the first time his family seen him or his daughter seen him compete. And he came through in spectacular fashion. So congrats to the under 1.5 bettors out there. I didn't have a play on that fight. I saw it as a volatile heavyweight matchup. And you saw Parker Porter, savvy veteran, was able to get it done and walk away with the victory. Fresh, what's up? Thank you, OG. Yes. You can also probably tell with the chili pepper sweatshirt here. I go way back, and they're still going strong. You know, us OGs have to keep grinding one day at a time. They're still going strong, and so am I. And I have no plans to stop the train now. This is steady as he goes here. So next bout of the evening, we saw Verona JandaRoba take on Marina Rodriguez. Marina Rodriguez, no semblance of a get-up game. We've seen this happen time and time again in her fights. It's a recurrent theme. And Verona JandaRoba, she followed that blueprint. She was able to ground Marina Rodriguez. How about those up kicks by Rodriguez at the end of that third round? It wasn't going to win her the fight, but she was trying like hell to give herself a chance. And the reality is JandaRoba's grappling was just way too much for her, and it ended up sealing the deal. So solid performance from Verona JandaRoba. I was a little shocked to see the line here. We hit it at plus 115. By the way, got a Lake Placid cup here. I was chatting with Danny Lags and Andrew Gumbus and John and a few other folks, and we're just shooting the breeze in between fights. Good to catch up with the brethren of MMA Twitter. And when you look at the JandaRoba situation here, she was a massive underdog, and the line closed. And I was talking to Marcus from Nubian Bookstore today, and we were chatting about the um, when there's a situation where the line moves and you feel like there is still value there, although the line has moved significantly. Do you pull the trigger on that bet, or do you say, "Ah, shucks, the value is now gone. I can't make the play on the fight." And this was a situation where I watched the line move on JandaRoba, but the tape it spoke to me, and you saw that JandaRoba was able to put that grappling to work and did a bit of a number on Marina Rodriguez. And JandaRoba is a smart fighter. She's a very intelligent fighter, fights to her strengths. And that's a beautiful thing to watch. She's also able to or she's been able to shore up some of her deficiencies, which is great. Let's see. Your live scoring tweet during the main event was displayed during the broadcast. Oh, really? When you're inside of the building, you don't know that these things happen. I wasn't aware of the commentary that was taking place. And I believe Brandon mentioned that as well. Hello, Brandon. Pleasure to have you on board here. A few minutes of your time on this late Sunday evening as we continue this journey. So let's get back to the matter at hand here, where we have JandaRoba walking away with the victory. Impressive. Now, what wasn't impressive, Chaos Williams' performance against Rolando Bedoya didn't have that killer instinct that we're used to seeing. Seemed hesitant, was not throwing with ferocity. Seemed like he was pacing himself to a certain degree. And this is a fighter who's taken some significant time off. I know in interviews, he shared that he had dabbled in real estate and a few other things. But you have to wonder, was his head in the game? And also, Rolando Bedoya, the lack of head movement, he just seemed much more willing to engage, and he went for it. He went for it all fight long. Williams had the opportunity to light him up, and we saw that maybe Williams is not who we thought he was, or maybe he has capitalized on moments in the past, like with Miguel Bieza, even the Semmelsberger fight. There have been others where he's kind of skated by and landed these hellacious knockouts. But what happens when he isn't able to do that? I was on Randy Brown against Chaos Williams, and I'll be honest, I was sweating bullets during that fight, because you knew that Williams had the potential to land the kill shot, and he wasn't. He didn't pull that off. And Rolando Bedoya, the kid has heart. The kid we've seen now, he is durable, and he's durable against legitimate competition. So I'll be interested to see who Bedoya takes on next, considering Williams is a legitimate power threat, and he now, Bedoya, should be able to show all of his game. I know he has a bit of a ground game too, and he's tenacious, man. He'll go for it. So I'll be interested to see where Bedoya goes from here. Now, this is a fight, the Kennedy Ezechukwu fight against Devin Clark, where you had the battle of the loud corners. And I saw a tweet that Devin Clark, his dad wasn't cage side, that he was actually in the stands. If anybody can let me know about that, if that's a fact or not. But I could hear the Team Fortis corner for Kennedy calling out directions as they've done in the past. He put his length to the test here. He was landing knees up the middle. He had an opportunistic submission that he was able to lock up. I believe a standing guillotine. That was beautiful, beautiful to watch. The person who was sitting next to me during the fight was in awe of Ezechukwu's finish in that spot. It was a great opportunity for those who were on the Ezechukwu spot the live betting opportunities as well. That's one thing about being in the arena. Also, when you're in the arena, I know there's a 10-second or so delay when you're watching the television, but when you're live there, if you have the opportunity to get in, you have a 10-second edge on most of the competition who has a delay, and also with the internet, etc. So just another reason to get out and attend the live events. There's nothing like it. I have been to just about every major mixed martial arts promotion there is over the past 20 years or so, besides one. I have to get out to one, but there's nothing like a live event, especially high stakes live event. Great stuff. Oh, look like we have Lou in the chat. Lou, got to get on a podcast with you at some point. I appreciate your work, your positivity. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you. Let's see. Someone posted a video of his dad yelling in the crowd. Huh. Okay. That's Devin Clark we're talking about. So Clark goes down in flames again. Got to wonder if he's going to continue on this journey. He is tough as nails. I was listening to his walkout song. He had a very interesting walkout choice. Wonder where he goes from here. So, but Ezechukwu, the arrow is pointed up for Kennedy Ezechukwu. He is a talented fighter, still 30 years of age, but he seems to really be fighting to his strengths and coming into his own. I like a little bit higher fight IQ than I've seen in the past, and that's going to pay dividends for a fighter like Kennedy, because we know from the stature, the reach, and he's a fighter now who's starting to use his reach inside of the octagon. He hadn't early in his UFC career, but now he's on his way. So I'm rooting for him, man. Seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. Hasn't but when he gets caught, man, and he got hurt early against Clark for a minute there. It looked like he was wobbled from my seats. But he got his bearings and came through with the victory. Now, oh my God, this is the fight that got everybody going. We heard the Timmy Trumpet, Edwin Diaz song that got everybody up on their feet for Mr. Matt Frivola, who came in there. And I think this also has to do with Dober not necessarily respecting Matt Frivola's power. He was tracking him down. The footwork was on point, wouldn't let Frivola get settled. And Frivola's using lateral movement against the cage, trying to avoid Dober. And Dober's just landing on him seemingly at will. And then, boom, Frivola ends up turning the tide and knocking Drew Dober down. And it did honestly look like a controversial stoppage. Dober was defending himself. It was quick. The referee got in there. And I'd be interested to see what in the comment section. Did you guys think that was a controversial stoppage or a good stoppage? From my vantage point in the stands, now I haven't seen the replay on the UFC pay-per-view, but from my vantage point, just about 12 rows off the floor, it seemed like Dober was given a short leash in that spot, and Frivola took advantage of it. You know, you can't hate on that. He went for it and he poured it on until the ref intervened. So nice win for Frivola. And I know he's from Long Island, but Newark, about 70 miles from Huntington, where he's from. So he walks away with the victory. He's starting to put together a bit of a win streak here. Let's see. We've got some comments here. Yes, Peter. By the way, I know Peter, I believe I've been in contact with him since Steamroller fought Venata a few years ago at MSG. Yeah, so Peter, thanks for stopping. And you thought the stoppage was fine. Okay. Then we have another member who says that the stoppage was quick. I personally thought it was a quick stoppage, but The good news is Frivola walks away with the victory, and it looks like he's going to get a legitimate contender here, or at least climbing the ladder a bit. He wants that Paddy Pimblett fight, and heck, give it to him. I would be hitting the unders in that fight. I don't think that fight would last very long. By the way, everybody was talking about Pimblett's hair. I ran into Zumagulov at the event yesterday, and yes, that haircut is real of Zumagulov, and brought me back to the Paddy Pimblett-esque haircut. Nice guy though, Zumagulov. Limited English, didn't really interact with him that much, but mentioned to him that it was disappointing that he was unable to perform. I know after a weight cut like that, to not be able to compete and to put in a training camp, man, I would hope that fighters would be able to get both checks there, their win and show money, because it's not his fault that his opponent couldn't make it to the fight. But solid guy. Now, we did not hear the purge siren yesterday. I was a little disappointed by that. I thought that Cron Gracie was going to come in with the purge siren echoing throughout the Prudential Center, but didn't happen. And Charles Jourdain came in, fought a great game plan, although he did follow Gracie to the mat and ended up in his guard, and that surprised me a little bit. And he hung out there for a long time, but Gracie could not get anything going. And I heard that Dana White was asked what did he think of Cron Gracie's performance, and it said he said something to the effect of that it looked like Gracie had been in a time capsule since 1995. That style of fighting is not effective these days. Zombie-esque performance. Wasn't able to get anything going off of his back, and Jourdain took advantage of this opportunity, man. He looked great out there. Feel bad for the guy. Jourdain, you can see he's willing to go for it. He's a very aggressive striker. I was at his fight against Shane Burgos over the summer of last year, and won't quit on himself. I know that he ended up getting choked out against Juicy J, and that was not a good look on short notice to get choked out in the third round against Juicy J. But Jourdain, the arrows pointed up, back on track after multiple losses. Cron Gracie, I think that's going to be the last we see of him. I don't know what type of UFC contract he has. Yeah, Gracie did look awful there. You'd go so far as to say he disappointed the family name. Oof. But he did make it to the final bell. I'll say that. He was there. He was giving Jourdain props after the fight. It looked like they had a little conversation inside of the octagon. And now they move on. So Jourdain, great walkout song too. I think it was the John Wick, one of John Wick's songs there. So next up, this is the fight that really brought the crowd back to life. The Movsar Evloev Diego Lopez fight. And you look at Evloev, he did not look like a minus 900 favorite in that spot. He was wincing while multiple submission attempts were applied. And Lopez went for it, man. He went for it. And as a fighter who's in his mid-20s, very aggressive, short notice replacement, fought like he had a full camp. And spry. Lopez, his stock went through the roof. And Evloev's stock, in my professional opinion, dropped massively. We've seen him get put on skates against Dawadu, and there have been other fighters who have put him in harm's way here. Now, Grundy did it. There have been others. So in this spot, I'm not sure what they're going to end up doing with Evloev, and he seemed to be affected by the crowd. He really seemed like the crowd was getting to him. The boos were raining down for Ivloev after that decision was read. And he looked really disheartened. So I'm not sure what's going to end up happening with Ivloev. It seems like he has a propensity to get caught in certain situations where he shouldn't. Now, he didn't tap, props to him, but you look at the way he was wincing. I wonder if he sustained any type of injury during the bout. But Lopez, great fight. And he has my attention. Wonder who he's going to fight next. Lopez was game. Yes. He's the jiu-jitsu coach of Alexa Grasso. I watched his interview. I think he's helping Aldana also, I believe. Or, yeah, I believe that's what's happening as well. Now, let's talk about Yan Xiaonan against Jessica Andrade. This is a spot where I had money on Yan Xiaonan at plus 170. And I'll be honest, there was a prop that was eyeing me up all week long. I didn't hit it, but I probably should have. And that was Yan Xiaonan inside the distance. I think I saw it at plus 800 or so. And I was breaking down this fight, saw the footwork was on display for Yan Xiaonan. Andrade is more of a Neanderthal-esque fighter. She's going to just come at you straight forward. You saw her winging hooks, keeping her chin up. She's it's almost like she didn't respect what was coming back at her. We've seen that time and time again in her fights. But this time it cost her, and it cost her big time. Yan Xiaonan, this is another situation where the crowd was in love with Andrade. They were all over her. Everyone in our section, and I could hear it throughout the arena, they were booing while Yan Xiaonan was getting announced. And they booed after she won the fight. But I was standing up and clapping away because Yan Xiaonan is the real deal. And now she's one step closer to taking on Weili Zhang, which has been something that's been in the works for many, many years. I believe it was the China Post. I read a story years ago that Yan was looking to fight, and she had no problem fighting Weili Zhang. So I hope that fight comes to fruition sometime in the next year, because both of those fighters are in their mid-30s. The time is now, as far as I'm concerned. Tatiana Suarez, I know there's talk of her coming back, but she came back, I believe, 10 pounds above this weight class. And I wonder if that fight will eventually happen. But happy for Yan Xiaonan. And this is another thing. The line for this fight moved all over the place. Yan Xiaonan, originally she was like plus 160, plus 165, then plus 170. I was like, all right, I gotta get in there. And Andrade, now this is what, 11 or 12 losses that she's had. So they're starting to rack up. And she is no spring chicken as far as the amount of mileage on her. I know she's tough as nails, but there comes a cost here. And we can talk about that in the next fight too. Let's see. We've got some additional comments here. I feel like this fight doesn't answer any questions about how Yan Xiaonan will deal with Zhang's takedowns, since Zhang actually feints and sets up her takedowns through her striking. Yeah, and Weili Zhang has continued to evolve. We saw, who would have thought in the fight against Carla Esparza that Weili Zhang was the one winning the grappling exchanges and winning the wrestling. And it's beautiful to watch professional fighters who are able to evolve. And that's what's happening. How do I see that fight going? I would think Weili Zhang would be a significant favorite in that matchup, which could potentially put the value on Yan Xiaonan. And we know that Xiaonan, she can walk into strikes also. We've seen against Joanna, former champion, how it's not like, I mean, she's another battering ram. She's used to just having her way and winning with ferocity at times. And Yan Nan is a fighter who is more of a finesse striker. So obviously there's a big edge in grappling for Weili Zhang. But and power, man. Power, pure strength. Fascinating fight, though. Xiaonan is hated in China. Interesting. Really. I'll look into that. I hope that goes down in Asia also. There was a few years ago, I had some family who was in Shanghai, and I was offered the opportunity to go visit some extended family out there. And this was maybe a week after the Kelvin Gastelum Bisping fight. That was a fight that I was planning to attend. It didn't end up being in the cards. And I would have liked to seen a fight in Asia. So hopefully that comes to fruition. I wouldn't mind making the trip out to Asia if Yan Xiaonan fights Weili Zhang. Now, let's talk about the co-main event of the evening, Belal Muhammad against Gilbert Burns. Now, we mentioned Belal Muhammad, the vitriol that was sent his way through the crowd. Man, they were raining down boos. And I knew that going in that was going to be the case. Gilbert Burns is a fan favorite. He really, since it seems like he's adopted a lot of the Masvidal fans. People just blindly fell in love with his abilities. And Gilbert Burns, tough as nails, but he is a fighter who spent a lot of time down at 155 pounds. And he also has a lot of fights under his belt. And another interesting tidbit, I believe I heard this, that Gilbert Burns and Rafael dos Anjos actually went to grade school together and that they grew up together. And look where they are now, vets of the games, on the verge of becoming legends. But Gilbert Burns was stopped short yesterday. And the other thing that needs to be mentioned is the injury. Now I got in on Belal Muhammad at plus 120. And you look at how things played out here. Belal Muhammad, I mean, he was dominant, looked like minus 400 or so during the fight. It was incredible how he was just basically coasting his way along to victory. I think he 50-45 Burns. And now it turns out that Burns was the one hurt headed into this fight. How are they able to keep these things under wraps? And the athletic commission and the medical team, I don't know how they were able to pull this off with Muhammad's ankle. That didn't seem to be an issue at all. I mean, I was watching him make his walk to the octagon, and then he was throwing kicks, and maybe the adrenaline was kicking in, but looked great out there. The gas tank was incredible, and the output. He was kicking Gilbert Burns's forearms time and time again. I must have counted 15, 20, 25 kicks and did a bit of a number on him there. But I believe Burns's left shoulder was the issue. If somebody could let me know. From my vantage point, it didn't seem like it was a shoulder injury, but I know after the fact that that's what he said it was. But I will say this, Belal Muhammad looked great. It was nice to cash the plus 120. And the hate that was coming from the fans, it got to me. It didn't. I mean, at some point, you have to respect the fighters who you're paying to support when you enter the arena. They're putting it all on the line for you. And I was hoping that he would win some fans over in his effort, but then he ends up telling New Jersey they suck. So didn't offend me. But I could see he's digging into that heel side that he's established now. So Burns hurt his shoulder in round 1. I'll have to go back and watch the fight. Now, when you're inside of the octagon, obviously you don't have access to the commentary team, and you formulate your own opinions about what's taking place. And it was nice to be able to do that, but also you miss out on things. Like, I heard one of my tweets ended up on the broadcast yesterday. Earlier in this recap, it was mentioned that it happened during the main event of the evening, but I'll have to go back and find out what round that ended up on the broadcast and see. I'll have to watch that back soon. Speaking of, so before we get to the main event, so Bilal Muhammad, now is he gonna bypass Colby Covington, or is this Colby Covington Edwards bout really gonna come to fruition? I'm curious, and also lining the Bilal Muhammad Colby Covington fight, both of those guys extreme grinders. And it seems like, I mean, Bilal's this win streak is really starting to rack up. I know the no contest we saw against Edwards, he was, I mean, in my eyes, no pun intended, I know that Bilal got eye poked, but he was getting his ass kicked by Leon Edwards early in that fight. So I treated that as a loss for Muhammad, and I've seen him struggle at times on the feet, but you have to wonder if this Covington fight happens. We haven't seen Colby in a while, and I know he's a grinder. I'd slightly favor Colby Covington if they matched Colby against Bilal, but hopefully we get to see them fight at some point. It seems like they're on a collision course. West, you say that Bilal looked good, Burns looked tired. Yeah. The weaponized cardio, that's really what was an issue for Burns. And Burns typically comes out guns blazing and can go 3 hard rounds. I've seen him go 5, I believe, against Usman. But here, Gilbert Burns goes down in flames. And nice to cash that plus 120 ticket. Now, controversial fight here. We've got Aljamain Sterling taking on Henry Cejudo in the main event of the evening. Aljo, we hit him at plus 105 and plus 100. Now, I received a lot of negative feedback when I was live scoring the event. I had Cejudo up 29-28 after 3 rounds. Aljo took the first. Now, this is my opinion after not watching the fight on the broadcast. This is my opinion of watching it 13 rows from the floor. And I had a great view of the action. Aljo seemed to walk away with round 1 rather easily. Round 2 is a very debatable round. I believe Cejudo ended up landing a takedown at the end of that round. And the judges, I was wondering what was going on with them. I know round 5, I think it was Cleary who ended up giving the 5th round to Aljo. That, in my opinion, was a Cejudo round. There were times where Aljo seemed to be like he was about to get the back and he was securing. He never got the body lock in. Cejudo did a great job of peeling the feet and the legs off as he was getting back to his feet. He's a tough guy to hold down, man. And I was wondering how the judges were viewing Cejudo after he landed the takedowns and also stuffed the takedowns of Aljo, and then ended up on top of Sterling, who looked like he was starting to waver. Bad optics on Aljo's part at the end of the rounds. Granted, Aljo won the striking, right? He also he gave up the control time. I believe Cejudo had more control time in the fight, and also Aljo ended up with more takedowns. Who would have thought that would happen? Sterling landing 4, I believe, takedowns, and Cejudo ended up with 3. So interesting stuff. All right, my tweet was on after the 3rd round. Okay, I'll have to go back and check that out. Aljo, tough as nails. By the way, this is another situation where the crowd was pro Cejudo, big time. They were pulling for their guy, and I have no idea why Sterling wasn't receiving as much support as I thought he would. I thought that Sterling, since he's from Long Island and pretty darn close to Newark, that people would be backing him, but no. And when the judges read off the scorecards, I know that it was a close fight, but I honestly thought that Cejudo took it. In my opinion, I had a bet on Aljo, and I thought that Cejudo edged it 48-47, but Aljo ended up getting the victory. I cashed the ticket. These things happen occasionally, and I watched the fight with my own eyes, just a few rows from the octagon. But the judges may have seen something different, and obviously they did. And this is how it goes. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and I do think that there was a little bit of value at Aljo at dog odds. That he, knowing that Cejudo had a 3+ year layoff, he was away from the game for a long time, and I tweeted, I believe at the end of the 4th round, it seemed that Cejudo was fading, but then that championship mindset. It seems like when he's tested, he always comes back a little bit harder, and that's what he needs, some adversity to overcome. And Cejudo's done it time and time again. So he ended up, in my eyes, Cejudo winning that 5th round. The way he was able to land the takedown at the end of the 5th round, very, very impressive. Yep, you got it. Hey, I think transparency, honesty is a huge part of this game. It's one of the reasons also I, after every event, I will post how I performed as a MMA handicapper. It's something I've done for many years, and I think everybody should do that. It's also a liberating experience to know that you've got nothing to hide. That is that your plays and that you have a track record and there's consistency and transparency. And the other thing is to not get too high and not get too low. Let's see. Speaking of crowds, who do you think will get supportive? Lemos versus Weili to support a fight in the U.S. Well, I think Weili Zhang has won over the crowd here now in the United States after that Rose situation. Early thoughts on Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Aljo. Well, man, that's a tough fight because obviously O'Malley's got the much better striking, and you know what? I'll say this: if it takes place in a smaller octagon, then Aljo, it would be my pick all day. But if this is in the larger octagon, O'Malley's footwork seems to be getting better and better, and he's very fluid, man. And I think that would be a really good fight in a larger octagon. I think that the odds would be much closer, and it should be a closely lined fight. But I'd still pick Aljo in both fights. I hope they book that soon. It depends on the odds, obviously, too. We'll see what we get. Yeah, I hope Cejudo fights again also, to be honest. And that I watched the post-fight press conference after the event, and what was mentioned during that was Cejudo said that if he's an all or nothing fighter, so he's not going to come back and take fights that don't make sense. He had a vision to fight Volkanovski after this, and now that fight basically has disappeared. So who is he going to fight next? Does he want to fight Merab? I don't know. I don't know if he'd want that fight. What is it going to do for his legacy? And another thing that was pointed out, and Marcus from Nubian Bookstore mentioned this also during the post-fight press conference, that I think it was Mike Bohm, said that the fighter or the judge in that 5th round who gave it to Sterling was the same judge that gave the fight to Joseph Benavidez when Cejudo fought Benavidez. So that's a tough pill to swallow for Cejudo. But I don't know if he's going to come back. Not sure. Will be interesting if he does, though. Now, thoughts on Evloev versus Mitchell? You know, I was on Evloev in a previous iteration of this matchup, and I do have concerns. I think that Evloev, as much as we respect his abilities, there seems to be a few chinks in the armor there that could be targeted. And it seems like he's capable of making mistakes during big moments. And if you frazzle him, if you take the lead, if you lead the dance, you could potentially put Evloev in harm's way, in trouble. So, but I still think Evloev is the rightful favorite in that matchup. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If there are any other questions, you can hit up the comment section. I know we have cards coming up next weekend and throughout the next few months. Let's see. Do you think Team Alpha Male makes the game plans? Yes. I haven't spoken to their fighters directly, but fighters like Josh Hemmett and others, seems like they have an intelligent way of going about their business here. They are really starting to help fighters evolve who have a history of grappling deficiencies, like Song Yadong. Go back no further than the fight against Cody Stamen, where he was put through the ringer on the mat. And look at how much he's changed and evolved since then. It's been pretty to watch, man. I've always loved watching fighters improve. And then you look at Marina Rodriguez on the other side of the fight, and she's a fighter who has not evolved. And perhaps she could have done better changing camps. I know she's a Muay Thai fighter, but if folks are taking you down time and time again, fight after fight, you have to address that deficiency, or else your opponent is going to target it. Are they as good as the Hickman brothers? Well, good question. Good question. I'm not prepared to answer that. Both of those camps are solid, and they're on a collision course, man. Yan Xiaonan and Weili Zhang. Let's book that fight. Get it going. Get it popping, as Cron Gracie says. All right. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I want to wish you a tremendous rest of your evening. And also, as we continue this journey, there'll be a lot of fights ahead, and we're all in this together. I think that's the theme here, that not only were we able to pull out a nice winning night, I believe almost 4.6 units, but there'll be a lot of other opportunities ahead. Oh, Marcus, great chatting with you earlier today. What do you think the opening betting lines will be for Sterling versus OMalley? I believe, I think it's going to be pretty close, because the public loves OMalley. And I think at this point in time, knowing how successful Aljo's been, despite folks thinking that he lost, he fights in the toughest division, the most talent-rich division, and he is respected from the betting perspective. And the other thing, he's fighting, I'll be honest, Cejudo is an all-time great as far as I'm concerned. He's a fighter who has evolved. You look at the first fight against Demetrius Johnson and how he's really changed the game, man. He came back, brought life to the flyweight division, and then took that 135-pound strap, then left for 3 years, and now he's back. So great night of fights. Want to close out the show here and wish everybody a tremendous week ahead. There'll be other opportunities ahead also, so let's get after it. So cheers. Have a great night, everybody. Let's do this.